What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Academy Insider Podcast. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Captain Gervy. This man is the best. If you don't follow him on Instagram, you have to. I'll put his handle in the show notes. He's a great representative of the Navy, but especially the surface warfare community. And so in today's episode, we talk all about the SWO life. We talk about his experience as a midshipman, what brought him into the fleet as a surface warfare officer, his taking command of a couple of warships in the Navy, and then specifically from that perspective and from that view, what he sees that causes certain JOs to excel, what causes others to struggle, how he's really focused on teaching, coaching, and mentoring young JOs and getting them ready to be leaders and lead in the fleet and enjoy what they're doing and find purpose and mission in the people on the ship. It's an incredible conversation. I think you'll get a lot out of it. And for all of my parents listening, he's also the parent of a midshipman, was. His daughter recently graduated from the Naval Academy, and he talks about how being a midshipman parent is actually a lot harder than being a midshipman during his time there at the Academy. So I think you'll get a kick out of this episode. If you have any questions about what we talk about, please shoot me a message anytime. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. The Academy Insider Podcast is sponsored by the Vermeer Group, a residential real estate company that serves the United States Naval Academy community and other select clientele in both California and Texas. If I can ever answer a real estate related question for you or connect you with a trusted Academy affiliated agent in the market which you're in, please reach out to me directly at grant@thevermeergroup.com. You can also reach out to me on my LinkedIn page, Grant Vermeer, and I'd be happy to respond to you there. Thank you so much. And now let's get back to the episode. All right, hey Captain, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and be a part of the Academy Insider Podcast. If you don't mind just giving the audience, they may not know who you are, a little bit of background about you, what brought you to the Naval Academy, and what you're doing now.
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to thank you, Grant, for allowing me to be on your platform. Amazing things that you're doing, spreading the word to the parents, to the loved ones, to the people that have inspirations to go to the academy. So I appreciate you allowing me to be here. But for who I am, I'll give you the quick 30-second version. I am the son of a chief. I am married to the sexiest woman alive, 25 years this year, to an academy grad, class of 98 plus one. I'm academy grad myself. I am a parent to two amazing kids. My daughter graduated from the academy, class of 22. I couldn't do the math. 98 plus 24. I think that works. And then my son is a sophomore, class of 26 at the Merchant Marine Academy. Okay. I am a career surface warfare officer. I commanded 3 ships. I love life. I love my country. And, I wake up every day with a smile on my face, ready to get after life.
I love it.
Why I went to the academy, I know you like open and transparent dialogue. I went to the academy for one reason, and that was to play football, right? It was the only opportunity I had to play Division I football. I had 3 goals growing up when I was a kid. It was to go to college without my parents having to pay a single penny. My dad said, "You will go to college," and I ain't paying. So I was like, "Yes, Dad." So that was one of my goals. My second goal was to play football at Notre Dame. My third goal was to be a teacher, a coach, be a positive influence in somebody's life. And, by going to the academy, I was achieving 2 of those goals up front. And I'll get to the third goal. But, that's me in a nutshell. I was, I was in 3 different companies. I was in the 7th company to start off. I got shotgun, went to Club 34 back when we had 36 companies. And then we went down to 30. So then I became part of 28. So 3 different companies. I was an oceanography major. Played football all 4 years, captain my senior year, but it all started at NAPS. I was an NAPSer, 3-1, and set the foundation for who I am today.
I love that. And again, in the spirit of transparency, this is something I talk about a lot, which is your reason for going to the Naval Academy is your reason, right? For some people, it's the best school they got into. For you and me, it was sports. I'm a recruited basketball player. Like, without basketball, I'm not going to the Naval Academy, right? But at the same time, it doesn't change the fact that I loved it. I embraced the experience, and I feel like, again, in an honest reflection, I enjoyed and I did a good service as a naval officer, right? And I did a good job, and I bought into it, right? And
my entire career at the academy playing football, I've always felt blessed. Like, I never felt like I belonged there, and I was like someone was grabbing me by the coattails and saying, "Come on, Gervy, we're gonna go along for this ride. You may not feel like you belong, but there's a special reason while you're here, and you're going to make the most of it. Like when I went to NAPS, when I got recruited to play football, I wasn't even the guy that they wanted, right? There was two legit players at my high school down in San Diego. They wanted one specific guy. He was like 6'3", 205 receiver who could run like a deer. He can catch. But we kind of had this deal. We would talk because he knew I wanted to go play at Navy, and he told the recruiter, "Hey, I will go if you bring Gervy along." So I was kind of the package deal. They didn't want me; they wanted LeBron Butts.
Yeah.
But fortunate enough for me, they got him, and
Yeah.
I came along for the ride. And again, I feel super blessed, and that's kind of why I am who I am, because like nothing was ever handed to me. I always knew that I had to work my butt off in order to achieve the things that I wanted to, because nothing was. I wasn't the most talented. I wasn't the most. I didn't have the size, the speed,
Mhm.
the strength like most D1 athletes or recruits had. I was just the guy that had a lot of heart, and I had an opportunity to shine, and I made the most of that opportunity.
Nah, I love that. And kind of what you were mentioning earlier too is that third goal of being a teacher. What I love, and I'm excited. I'm going to turn it over to you in just a sec. But what I think makes the Naval Academy so special is the density of senior enlisted leaders, of senior officers who are able to come back to the academy with the sole goal of teaching, coaching, and mentoring these young men and women who are getting ready to transition and become and transform into Navy and Marine Corps officers, right? And so,
Absolutely. Like when I first said that my goal was to be a teacher, a coach. I mean, my vision was in the classroom. My
sure.
vision was on the field. Little did I know that you could teach, mentor, inspire anybody at any level, whether it's on the ship, on a sub, on the field. And I was able to do that. And you know, it's just amazing to me what opportunities the Navy provided me.
Mm-hmm.
The things that I wanted to do. You think about the Navy, you think about just kind of sailing, to all these wonderful places, globally. No, it's about, the influence and impact that you have on these young lives, teaching them, coaching them, and inspiring them along their journey. And that's what made me stay in. Like, I know we'll probably get into it, but I never thought I was going to be in for 27 plus years, right?
Yep.
I didn't think I'd last more than my commitment of 5 years. But because I had that opportunity to be a positive influence in young people's lives, I'm still doing it today, right? I still wake up with a purpose, with fire in my gut because I have an opportunity to change somebody's life today.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. And you were right. We are going to jump into it because this episode really is all about being a SWO and the SWO
Yeah.
life. And so you're saying you didn't know you were going to stay in for 27 plus years, but what about even 1 year? When you were at the academy, did you know that you wanted to be a SWO? Was there any like summer training that you did? You went on summer cruise and gotta go out to sea on a destroyer or some kind of ship that you're like, man, I could be a SWO? Or kind of how did you land on actually service selecting to become a surface warfare officer?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I wanted to play football, and that's it, right? But at some point, I knew that I had to be a big boy, I had to be mature, and I had to start thinking about my future.
Sure.
So, kind of growing up, Top Gun was, a big movie for us, and I wanted to be
Sure.
Maverick. Right? I wanted to fly those freaking sexy F-14s, um, but I realized that you had to do 5 years after you earn your wings. That's 7 years, man. I wanted to teach. I wanted to coach. I wanted to get out of the service. That was way too long a contract for me, so I didn't want to be a pilot. We during plebe summer we had a Lieutenant Smith who was like this war hero. Wrote a book. He was a Navy SEAL, and this dude was an absolute stud. And I was like, I want to be like Lieutenant Smith. I want to be a SEAL. But then I realized that they run a lot. They freaking swim in cold water. I was like, I don't like the run. I don't like
I
cold
like
water.
that.
That
That's
ain't
harder
for
than I
me.
thought.
No, and then I love the Marine uniform. They look sexy as all, super attractive. But again, I don't like to yell. I don't like to be yelled at. So I don't think the Marines would have been a good fit. The submarine force, as attractive as that money, that nuke pay is, like I love the sun, and I I wanted kids, right? So I didn't want to be a nuke. So the quickest path for me to achieve the goals that I wanted to achieve, which was to be a teacher, to be a coach, was SWO because it's 5 years. You get on a ship, you do your time, and then you get out. I
Yep.
didn't realize that when you're on your ship and you have your small division, even as a first ensign, baby ensign on board the ship, day
Yep.
one. you are teaching, you are coaching, you are being a positive influence in these young sailors' lives.
Yep.
So, it all kinds of shit. Like my purpose of being a SWO was all kinds of jacked up, right?
Yep.
It was the fastest route out of the Navy, but it was the one thing that I absolutely loved to do that
Hmm.
allowed me to achieve that third goal that I had, since I was little to teach and to coach,
Yeah.
and I just fell in love with it, right? So
Yeah.
at what point did I realize it? Maybe it was after my plebe year. I did midshipman leadership training. It was kind of like
Hmm.
a baby leatherneck, baby TBS,
Sure.
and I realized, man, like the only two paths for me were either Marine ground or SWO,
Sure.
because of the timeline and the path for me to achieve my goal. And I realized that I didn't want to be a Marine. Like it was just like even after plebe year, all year long I was getting yelled at, and then I go back. I think I thought I was done. I get a stripe, climb, turn, and woo, and I'm still getting yelled at. I'm like, man, this
What's going
life ain't
on?
for me, man. And I got dirty all the time. I was like, I like sleeping in a bed with my Diet Coke and microwave popcorn. So I think the slow life is for me. So I think it was after my plebe years when then I made up my mind that I wanted to be a swell.
Yeah, that's funny. That was the same realization I had because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, maybe I could be a Marine. Marine ground officer. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then we went out for approachment and we had to sleep in the field and we're like sleeping in one of those sacks that you put around yourself so bugs
Nope,
don't crawl on you and stuff. And I was like,
nope.
nah, nah,
I get itchy in
that's not
grass.
gonna
I don't
work.
like bugs. I don't like spiders or snakes. Hey,
Yeah,
that field life ain't for me.
yeah,
I love to
I'm too
shoot
busy for
guns. I like
that.
to look
Yeah.
good in uniform. I think I look good with the high and tight, but nah, that lifestyle wasn't for me.
Wasn't for me. Yeah. And then so you end up picking SWO. Did they have a ship selection night in your first year? Was
Yeah,
that something? And like, how was that experience for you? And what ship did you pick and where did you go first?
yeah. So ship selection night was nothing like it is today. I've been to a
Yeah.
few of the modern day, the drafts, the big productions. We had nothing like that, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just a small little ceremony. You would line up one by one. You would go in the memorial hall, pick your ship. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
celebrated.
Yep.
It just wasn't a big event. Fortunately for me, I didn't have ship selection because I decided to be a graduate assistant
Okay.
right after I graduated. So I stayed on on the football staff for 6 months for the season, and because of that, I didn't have to choose a ship, which I think I was pretty blessed because all I wanted was a ship out of San Diego. And
Mm-hmm.
because my order of merit was so low, I was just a dumb jock. I probably wouldn't have had a ship available in San Diego. So
Sure.
because I had the opportunity to be a graduate assistant, I was able to pick a ship, um, that wasn't on that list. It was a reserve frigate out of San Diego, but it was the best situation for me because it was a small crew that immediately went on deployment. I was able to get my qualification in 9 months. It was an
Mm-hmm.
awesome opportunity for me, and it just worked out. Super blessed.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. And then, so you're out there on your first ship, you're qualifying fast, you're doing the SWO mission, you're out to sea, you're deploying. Did you have that transition? Did you actually enjoy, for lack of a better term, the technical and the tactical stuff of being a SWO as well? Or were you still just kind of mesmerized and really just being powered on the fact that you were able to have a division, have sailors, and be able to make an impact on your life? Like, at what point did you were like, oh man, like I actually do. I love being a SWO. I love what's going on here.
Yeah, I would say probably the first tour, the first year as an ensign,
Mm-hmm.
living that slow life was the hardest part of my career ever. Like in command, as a department head, it didn't get any harder than being a first tour ensign. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why it was so hard is because, first of all, I didn't know what to expect, right? I had to learn my equipment, I had to learn my people, I had to learn how to be a SWO, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have time for it all. Right, I was just trying to figure out, which way was the bow, which way was the stern, how did I get to my rack? Like it was hard. It took me like at least 2, 3 months to figure out the ship, and
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to learn how to drive this thing and be proficient and be tactical. So it was a very daunting experience up front, right?
Yeah.
And then I started to realize my mission first and foremost is to learn my people, right? And once I can take care of my people and understand what they need, in order for them to be successful, then it kind of got easier for me because once,
Sure.
I figured out that as long as I take care of my people, then my people will give me every opportunity to work on my qualifications, right? And as a non-qualified surface warfare officer, you really just need time to work on your quals.
Hmm.
And when the people and the job was so good and the routine was just established where they allowed me the time to just work on myself, then it got a little bit easier. It didn't hurt that, we went on mission, off the bat. And I was like the go-to conning officer. When I went through the Panama Canal, I was all the sea and anchor details. I was the conning officer. So I really learned how to drive a ship on a frigate, and you could pull in a port without the use of tugs, so your ship handling skills had to be on point. So I figured that out right away, and I used a lot of my athletic, just hand-eye coordination and feel for the ship
Sure.
to help me drive that ship. And once the captain realized I was pretty damn good at driving the ship, then he gave me a lot of more, he gave me a lot, he trusted me a lot more, gave me a lot more leeway. And that's why I was able to qualify so fast, because they were able to see that I got it right away, that I was able, to control the ship and run the deck, kind of simultaneously. And they trusted me so much that they allowed me to kind of progress through my quals.
Yeah. And did you have any mentors in that fleet, that first tour ensign? Like, do you have any other, even if it was the JO, department head, your chief, whatever it was, do you have any mentors that you remember specifically from that time that helped you make those realizations, that helped you get to that point, that helped you qualify?
Yeah.
Who are the people that made an impact in your life on USS First Ship?
So, you know, I when I was at the academy, there were no SWOs that I looked up to, right?
Okay.
I remember the folks that taught me pro dev, and they were all like SWOs that were getting out of the Navy. That they were just there to, that it was their sunset tour. And that's why it kind of turned me off about the SWO community, because
Sure.
in my opinion, like the best and the brightest were like the Marines, the SEALs, the aviators that were wearing that uniform and showing the best of their service. And I didn't feel like we had that in the SWO community. So I kind of went into my SWO job a little bit jaded.
Sure.
But when I first showed up, it was my senior chief, STGC Adolphson, uh, that took me under his wing. And every time the captain called me, he was in my hip pocket. Anytime, you know, that, um, you know, that I got in trouble, or anytime I had to route a CAS rep, that senior chief was in my hip pocket. And he showed me the ways of how to take care of your people, how to lead, how to be proficient, how to, earn some trust and credibility with the people. And for him, in his mind, his success is going to be determined by how well I do, right? If I'm a complete dirtbag, that's a direct reflection on him. So he had a vested interest in my progression, my development. So I am who I am today because of Senior Chief Adolphson and the way that he took me under his wing, and he ensured that I succeeded on that first tour. There was no my department head, it wasn't my XO or CO. It was that Chief Adolphson who took me under his wing, who ensured that I succeeded, that I looked good in uniform, that I was present where I needed to be when I needed to be there, that I sounded good, that I was well prepared. He was the one that put me on a pedestal to make me shine, because he knew that if I shined, then the entire division was winning, he was winning, and we all looked good together.
Nah, that's a fact. And the relationship between a chief or a senior chief, kind of the senior enlisted leader in your department or your division, and a junior officer is one of the most special relationships any junior officer is going to have in their time in the Navy, right? And I stand by that. And
Absolutely.
for anyone who's listening, I encourage you to go and check out an episode I recorded with Command Master Chief Jeff Kirby. We talk all about this. So if you're not fully understanding kind of the relationship between a senior enlisted individual and a junior officer, because it's interesting. Usually, again, this senior chief is probably what, 40, 42, 43 years old, and you're a 22-year-old ensign, right?
He's old enough to be my father.
He's old enough to be your father, right?
Yeah.
That's it. And so this relationship, that's something that's so powerful, so unique to the military service, that if you don't fully understand or comprehend that, I encourage you to check out that episode, because it'll only make that story that much more special, right?
Yeah.
The relationship.
And I think I was
Yeah. Go.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I was pretty fortunate because my dad was a chief, right?
Sure.
And he was the one that told me, you want to be successful, you lean on that chief, right? And then so every command I've had, the first group of folks that I always talked to was the mess, right? They're the ones that had to buy in. Once the chief mess bought in, then I couldn't lose, right? And I would tell the chiefs, if we win as a ship, it's because of you. If we lose as a ship, it's because of you. So you guys are the ones that are going to determine whether or not we win or we lose, right? And it was the relationship that I shared with my CMC. Like, we were so tight, we were in lockstep. We didn't always disagree, or we didn't always agree. But when we did disagree, like, he was always the first one to tell me, right? As you can imagine, I'm a pretty wild CEO, and I have some pretty wild ideas that are pretty risque, right? But my command master chief would always say, sir, I love you to death, and I know you're a wild cowboy, but this may be a little too wild.
You
So
can't do
he
that.
saved my butt plenty of occasions, right? And if it wasn't for that, that CMC or that mess, to kind of tell you, sir, you are wrong, or you need to do this, that, like, as leaders, we need to be humble enough to realize that we are not the end all be all. Like, we got to make a decision at the end of the day. But listen, there are smarter people that have more experience that can help guide you and advise you so that you make the right decision so your butt doesn't get fired.
Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if you take anything out of this episode, the Navy runs on the back of the Navy chief, man. And like you're
I
saying,
agree, 100%.
the success of the ship, whether you win or lose, the success of the Navy, whatever, like, that runs on the chief's mess. The chief's mess is one of the most special things in the whole world, and they're powerful. They're powerful, man.
Yeah,
So
and I tell everybody all the time, regardless, like, I may be the commanding officer, the captain of the ship. You would think I'd have access to every single space on board the ship. I do, with the exception of one, and that's the chief's mess.
that's
I
the
still
mess.
knock and I still request permission to come aboard because that place is special.
Special. And so, kind of moving on now, you talk about the fact, hey, I'm trying to get out in 5, right? But then you start to realize you like it, you progress in your career, and you end up taking command of a warship. What was that feeling like? Are you able to articulate kind of the feeling and emotion associated with commanding a warship? And how was it for your dad, being a Navy chief, watching his son take command of a ship? Can you kind of talk about that experience of taking command and what it meant to you and what it meant to your family?
Yeah, I never thought that I'd have the opportunity to command a ship, right? I thought that I was just going to be a divo, I was going to be a department head, I was going to get out of the Navy, and that was going to be it for me. But as soon as I started realizing that I have an impact in these young people's lives, and I'm loving what I'm doing, and at the command level, it's only going to get bigger. I'm just going to have more responsibility with more people to positively impact. I was like, man, this is something that I'm absolutely thrilled and excited and pumped to be able to do. People always talk about the burden of command. They have all of this responsibility that rests solely on their shoulders. I don't look at it as a burden. I look at it as an opportunity to be a role model, to be an inspiration, a mentor to so many people, 400, 450 people, to see them grow, to see them thrive, to see them win. So, when you think about the emotions of taking command, I've gotten better with the 3 commands that I've had a part of. But one thing I realized that it's not about the mission. The mission will take care of itself as long as you take care of the people, right? As the CEO, you have a direct impact in your sailors' lives. Once you take care of the people, guess what? They are going to work their butts off to ensure that you don't lose. And when you have 400 sailors that are working their butts off for one common goal, the ship can't lose. Guaranteed to meet mission, to sail on time, to get the rounds downrange on target every single time because your people will make it happen. These sailors are smart. They're trained well. They want to win. They just want the opportunity, and they want leadership to trust in them, to celebrate their wins and appreciate them, give them pats on the backs, and tell them that they love them. Because when they feel that way, when they feel valued, they're going to do anything for you.
Anything, right? And I think it's a special sentiment. And I kind of want to pick your brain on the perspective of this. So you're talking about you have the opportunity to inspire, you have the opportunity to teach, you have the opportunity to coach, right? And for the parents who may be listening, whose son or daughter may be a SWO or may be getting ready to become a SWO, when you saw young JOs report to your ship when you're in command, what did you see that caused some of them to excel and some of them to struggle? And then kind of in your vein and what you wanted to do, how did you address that and try and proactively mentor some of these young ensigns and JGs? And what was your approach to teaching, coaching, and mentoring junior officers checking into their ship for the first time?
Yeah, I think there's two things I address because I've seen it all the time. Even when I was a young JO, there's two specific things that I've seen and witnessed that can make or break a young ensign when they first report on board a ship. First is
Mm-hmm.
humility, right? When you get some of these ensigns that come straight from the academy, thinking that they're all that, wearing their ring, their ring, and they got this bright shiny gold bar on their shoulders, and they think that they're in charge, the boss. Even they outrank the chief, so they could tell them what to do. You're not going to do well, right? But when you come in with a humble attitude, thinking, man, I got a lot to learn. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I know that I don't know everything, but I'm sure going to learn and I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to ask the young seaman. I'm going to ask the second class petty officers in charge. I'm going to ask the chief, what do I need to do to be successful?
Mm-hmm.
When ensigns come on board and they have that sort of mentality, they're going to do well. And I tell ensigns all the time, your job as a first tour ensign is to learn, is to make mistakes, go around, ask questions, be vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think that when you go and stand a bridge watch, if you make a mistake, that's the end of your career, you're wrong. That's your job. The officer at deck's going to make sure that you steer the ship in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not being bold and not being proactive in making the commands and driving the ship, then you're wrong. Like, get out of the corner, be up front, be bold, make decisions. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
wrong, oh well, learn from it, right?
Yeah.
And the second thing is you got to learn how to deal with adversity. As a young ensign going through the process,
Mm-hmm.
it's tough. You're going to make mistakes. You're not always going to win. But if you're going to crumble and feel sorry for yourself and, you know, not pick yourself up, dust yourself off, listen, it's a tough job. That's what plebe summer's for, right? Because plebe summer is designed for you to fail, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
they can see how you're gonna get yourself back up, dust yourself off, and move on. As long as you don't make that same mistake over and over and over again. So you come in with a humble attitude, humble mentality, and understand that you're going to make mistakes. And how you deal with that adversity, how you deal with those setbacks is going to determine whether or not you're going to be a career SWO, you're going to be a commander of a ship at sea, or you're gonna get out and do something else, work at McDonald's, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's really the choice is really up to you to determine whether or not you're going to be successful in this organization.
100%. And like you mentioned, this is the relation to the academy here and the academy experience is something I talk about all the time, which is that the academy is hard and it's meant to be hard. Because once you graduate and you go to the fleet, it's going to be harder, right? And so
Absolutely.
if you take an approach to the academy of like, "Oh, I just hope things will get easier." Then you're wrong. Like that's not how it works. And I think that's what makes the service academy so special is we have those senior enlisted leaders, the senior mentors who are able to guide you and make you realize this. That the purpose of plebe summer is just to get better dealing with hard situations. We're not waiting to get
Absolutely.
easier. It's not going to get easier. We just get better dealing with hard things. So that way you can go out and do the next harder thing and be ready to learn and grow from that and then be ready to approach the thing that's going to be even harder after that, right? The
So
academy is
what's
hard.
crazy?
Yeah, go.
Yeah. So what's crazy is you don't realize that while you're at the academy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think about it, and you think about life as a plebe, and you think, man, this sucks. I can't do this for 4 years, right?
Yep.
I can't live this lifestyle. But you know what? You're only a plebe once,
Yep.
right? When you're a SWO, you're only an unqualified SWO once. That's not how your life is going to be. Once you
Mm-hmm.
figure things out and you learn how to be a SWO, then guess what? You may get more responsibilities, but you're also going to have more authority, right? You're
Yep.
also going to have more opportunities to impact change. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you're a firstie, guess what? You're running the freaking show. You're brigade commander, regimental commander. Like, you are in charge. So
Yeah.
that amount of suck is a short
Yep.
period,
Yep.
right? And that's all by design. And
Yep.
that's how it is in the fleet. So,
Yep.
and I didn't realize that. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that, the regiment is purposefully done and orchestrated so that you will succeed out in the fleet.
Yep.
Because you know what? After you graduate, you become a plebe again, whether
Yep.
you like it or not. You're going to get beat down, but you're going to get qualified and you're going to learn and you're going to grow. Then you're going to have smaller responsibility, then bigger responsibility. Then guess what? You're going to be in charge.
Yep.
And once folks understand that, then they're going to thrive at the Naval Academy, right? Because they think life as a plebe is how it's going to be all 4 years. It's not. That's just a period of indoctrination. It's
Yep.
going to help you learn how to manage your time, how to handle adversity, how to deal with, superiors. So then when you become an upper class, now you kind of figured things out. Now you're responsible for training the young plebes, and then it becomes, cyclical.
Cyclical. That's right. And again, that's one of the beautiful things. This is what I think makes the Service Academy so special, right? Is it instills in you, whether you realize it or not, it instills in you a certain level of toughness and a certain level of resiliency, right? You get used to doing hard things. Working hard,
Absolutely.
working hard and fighting through difficulty, fighting through adversity, sailing through that storm, that is a muscle that you have to work out. That is something that you
And
build, it's something you get used to.
and believe it or not, you are experiencing that. Like whether or not you like it or not, like you are building those muscle sets, or the muscle memory as you're going through the process.
Yeah.
When I was a senior graduating, I wanted nothing to do with the academy. Like I put in all my stuff in a bag and I tossed it out in the garbage, after I graduated. But then I look back and I'm like, man, that's why I learned all that stuff, all that table salt, all that stuff from the reef points, all that pro knowledge stuff. It's so that I can become a better officer in the Navy. And then I started to appreciate the academy. Maybe even 5 years after I graduated is when I really started to appreciate everything that I learned. And then I would think back and I would think, man, when I went to NAPS, this is why I went and did all of these hard things. When I was a plebe, this is why I learned all of, all of these things. So they got me prepared for this moment. And it didn't click until like 5 years after the academy. And that's when I really started to appreciate and value and love the academy that much more. I could tell you probably about 95% of midshipmen don't love the academy while they're there. But when they see the experiences and how it molded them to become the officer that they are,
Yep.
man, I love it twofold now.
Yep.
And I am so proud to be from that institution that I would
Yep.
never take back anything. I would never, there's no regrets that I've had. Like, yeah, it may have
Yep.
sucked, it may have been hard, but I have no regrets because it made me the officer that I am today. And I'm so thankful and blessed.
Blessed. Best decision we ever made in our lives. We didn't realize
Well,
it. We just wanted to play a sport. Well, yeah, get it.
yeah.
What are you going to say?
So it was the second most important
Second.
decision I made in my life. Yeah, my first most important was
Yeah.
deciding who I was going to be the
Yeah,
rest.
I'm still
Yeah, I would
not
spend the
married.
rest of my life with. That's my number one, right?
It'll shift to
The
two
second
for me
most
too.
was
It'll
Naval
shift to two for
Academy.
me too.
You're a good man. I appreciate you. We're on the same page, brother.
Oh man. But yeah, just again in the theme of the fact that it's hard, right? And the fact that it's hard and being out and being an unqualified SWO, life is difficult. What did you see as the most difficult challenges in the day-to-day life of a young SWO? Right? Like is it staying in watch? Is it qualifying? Like what things make life really difficult as a young SWO, unqualified, checking into their ship for the first time?
Yeah, I think the most difficult part of being an unqualified ensign is just managing your time, understanding what's important, and using your time to do what's your priority. And if you have a not so good commanding officer and they tell you everything is your priority, you're going to get smoked, right? You're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to feel like you can't do anything. You're a loser. You can't win. And it's going to be a really tough experience for you, right? But when you have someone that can outline what your priorities are, I want you to spend your time doing this. I want you to have 25% of your quals done by this amount of time. Now you have something that you can measure. Now you have something where you can kind of manage and say, all right, if he wants me to be 25% done with my quals by this certain time, well, I can spend 2 hours of my day doing this. And if I do that every day, I'll be at that 25%. But it's hard when you don't know how to manage your time and you think your people, your equipment, your maintenance, your qualifications, your ability to drive a ship are all at the same level. And if you don't have anyone to mentor you and to help you and guide you, and they just say, do all of it, which I've seen in the past,
Sure.
you're going to smoke out these young ensigns and they're going to feel defeated. and they're gonna walk away with their head in between their legs, feeling like there's nothing that they can accomplish. So my advice to these young ensigns is go to your ship, figure out what your captain's priorities are for you.
Mm.
And I'm gonna tell you, your priority should be to learn, to make mistakes, to ask a lot of questions,
Yeah.
develop a relationship with your chief, and tell him, Chief, I got your back. If you want me to be, the divo, and responsible for all of these decisions with the people and the equipment, tell me that. Or if you want me to get my qualification so I could be the divo that you need me to be, tell me that. Right? Hopefully your
Mm-hmm.
chief will tell you, Chief, we got the division. Just show up for quarters, provide your guidance, look good in uniform, be on time, and then go out and do your thing. Get your qual. Be the best dang ship driver, be the best dang CIC watch officer, be the best dang OD and SWO that you could possibly be. When you have
Absolutely.
people that can set those guidelines for you and figure out and draw that path for you, you're going to succeed. I guarantee it. And not only do you have to manage your time, but you have to manage your attitude because life inherently sucks, just like being a plebe, right? But if you understand and see the bigger picture and see what the end result can be, I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee you're going to be a much better plebe, a much better ensign, a much better SWO. Right, you got to see the forest from the trees. You got to understand what the big vision, the big goals. You got to understand your why, because if you don't, you're just going to get caught up in the minutia and all the BS that you're dealing with, and then you won't see the fruits of all of your labor, right?
Yeah.
Understand that it's going to be a grind, right? But if you stay positive, understand that there's something bigger, something better, something
Mm-hmm.
more beautiful out there. I just got to suck it up for a little bit until I get my qual. You're not going to win unless you have that attitude.
100%. In kind of embracing that big picture mindset and understanding the why and seeing the high level, what you do as a captain to really help people see that, right? And what did you do to help instill the sense of mission, purpose, and literal fulfillment to young JOs? Like, how did you relay the overall mission of the ship? And can you explain to, and again, I know it'll be different based on class of ship and whatnot, but can you
Yeah.
give a brief rundown on, like, hey, what is the mission of the ship and how do we instill that sense of purpose and pride and fulfillment to young JOs?
Yeah. So first off, when I have young JOs, I always
Mm-hmm.
talk to the non-qual, separately,
Sure.
and I talk about all things other than the mission, right? I
Sure.
talk leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
I talk, what I talk about character and trust and things that we value in the Navy organization as leaders, right?
Mm.
What your mindset should be when you go to the next level. And we have these discussions and we talk nothing but leadership, right? And then we kind of end with, all right, how are you doing with your quals? What percentage are you at? What are you struggling with? Who is helping you? Who is not helping you? Who are the barriers? And we address it at that level. And as transparent as a commanding officer as I am, man, they lay the dirt, and I want them to, right? Because I want everyone to know that these folks feel comfortable in telling me who are the barriers, who is standing in their way from achieving their quals, right? Because they know that I'm going to take it to the next level and say, hey, why are you having this
Wow.
conversation, or why are you standing in the way of this person and clipping their wings? So, how do I guide these young ensigns or
Mm-hmm.
non-quals? I have a weekly conversation with them, right? And I
Yeah.
want to see how they're doing. How is their mental state, right? Are they
Mm-hmm.
feeling like they're thriving? Or are they feeling like they're struggling? How can I help them? First questions that I ask these young JOs is, who are you? What do you want out of life? How can
Mm-hmm.
I help you achieve it? Right? Because as a CO, it is my responsibility to help them achieve whatever it is they want out of life. If they want a lateral transfer and become, a CO or EOD, PAO, HR, whatever, that's my responsibility to help them get there. Yeah, I'm gonna try to convey to them there's nothing sexier than being a SWO and help them stay in our community. But if they are dead set, if their goal in life is to do something else, it's my responsibility to help them achieve it. Right? What kind of leader would I be if I denied it because I am selfish and I just want them to remain a SWO? So
Yeah.
we talk about life, we talk about love, we talk about leadership, and once they feel like the boss cares about them, cares about their progression, man, they're going to work their butts off, to ensure that they maintain that track. They maintain that level where, I told the captain that I was going to be qualified based on our schedule in 18 months. I am tracking, or I'm going to beat it by 2 months, and I'm going to celebrate with the captain and show him that I'm 2 months early. We have those conversations on a weekly basis, and if other ships, other commands aren't doing that, hopefully the SWO's doing that, the senior watch officers doing that, the department heads are doing that. But that should be a conversation that all leaders should have with their subordinates, because your main job as a leader is to understand what your people want and give them every opportunity to achieve it.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. And I want to
Yeah.
take a quick pause as a vocabulary, terminology explanation session on some of the amazing things that you just said. Again, for someone who's listening, may have no idea what you said. There are a couple
I'm
terms that
sorry. Yeah.
I want you. No, this is great. This is why I love this platform, right? Is it gives us an opportunity to talk about all these amazing things, but also break things down for people too, right?
Yeah.
And so you mentioned two specific ship terms, CIC and OOD. You mind just giving a really brief, quick explanation of, a breakout of the terms and what they are?
Yeah. So you talked about the tactical level of fighting on
Yep.
a warship. We do that out of CIC, and that's the Combat Information Center. And part of your qualification in becoming a surface warfare officer is becoming a CIC, Combat Information Center watch officer, where you learn how to work the radars, you learn how to work the weapon systems, and you provide the tactical situation to the officer of the deck. That's the OD, the ones that's in charge of running the ship, the driving of the ship,
Yep.
the overall, just the overall,
Yeah.
status of the ship,
Of the ship.
whether
That's your
the engineering
representative.
plant, whether it's
Yeah.
your weapon systems, your comms, and
Mm-hmm.
so again, there are certain steps. You have to be a fighter. You have to be a medical provider. You have to learn how to fight the ship. You have to learn how to defend the ship. You have to learn how to drive the ship, all before you're one board with the commanding officer to get your surface warfare officer pin. That's why it's so difficult, because there's so many things that are asked of you, so many things that are expected out of you. Before you get that warfare pin on your chest, you have to have an understanding of how the entire ship works, and not just your ship, right? But
But all
all
the
the other
ships.
ships in the Navy, right? Between all of, the cruisers, destroyers, the amphibs, the carriers, the LCS, the minesweeps, the submarines. You have to have a working knowledge, all of the ships, with the weapon systems of all the ships, the capabilities and limitations of all those ships, before you have that conversation with the commanding officer to determine whether or not you're worthy of wearing the pin.
Yeah. Amazing. And you mentioned earlier in the episode, you have a daughter. She's an academy grad. She following your
Yeah.
footsteps. Does she go SWO? And then with that is, what was your advice to her specifically as she started her journey as a young unqualified ensign?
Yeah, so there's nothing that makes me more prouder than to have a daughter that graduated from the same institution I did, same institution mom did, and then chose the same service as mom and dad. So she became a SWO. She is the deck divo on the USS San Diego right now, thriving, doing great things. Absolutely love her to death. And I had to treat her differently than
Sure.
my junior officers,
Sure.
right? Because she's heard me give all this advice to all the JOs,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to be. It's confusing to me which hat I wear. Do I wear dad hat? Do I wear
Mm-hmm.
SWO daddy
Right.
hat?
Yeah.
Which one do I wear? So I'm just, as a dad, I just tell her to smile, enjoy the ride, have fun. Take care of your people is the most important thing, and then I leave it up to her people to help her with her qualifications. I just want to see her happy. I want to see her feeling safe and comfortable on the ship. I want to see her thrive. I don't want to see her going home like smoked and burnt and feeling just hopeless,
Yeah.
right? So it is my job just to provide the motivation and say, babe, how you doing today? Are you thriving? Are you smiling on your face? What wins did you have? I don't get into technical terms. I don't get
Sure.
into, any of the deep conversations with her qual process. I just say, hey, are you winning today? What did you do for your Navy today? You take care of your people. How's your chief? And those are the conversations that I have with her because, she doesn't want dad in her knickers. If there's a problem and I say, you want me to talk to your CEO? I say, Dad, I got this.
I
And
guess.
yeah, that's a hard position to put me in because
Sure.
I want to fix, right? I
Mm-hmm.
want to be there to make it easier for her. But
Mm-hmm.
what am I doing to her? I'm just enabling, just that sort of behavior that's not going to be helpful for her in her
Yeah.
long-term career. So I want her to figure things on her own, and
Mm-hmm.
she's doing a heck of a job, and I'm super proud of her.
I love that. Having been an academy grad yourself, and now the parent of an academy midshipman, what do you think was hard? What was your experience as an academy parent? Was it
Oh
difficult? What
my
was going on
gosh.
in your mind?
Yeah, so I thought being a mid was hard, right? I thought it was tough. But there is nothing like being a parent to a midshipman
Mm-hmm.
because as a mid, there are certain things you can control. You control most of your time at the academy. The
Mm-hmm.
choices you make, you got to own them. You take full accountability for them. But there's no choices that you can make as a parent. You don't even know what's going on with your kid. Like at Plebe Summer, I think I talked to her twice, during, the cell phone conversation on a Sunday for 5 minutes. And most of it was spent crying and babbling because I couldn't have a carry out a conversation. I miss my daughter so much. It was so hard being a parent. Seeing her leave my arms, seeing her enter Alumni Hall on I Day was probably the most difficult time for me in my life. Like you talk about, your life on a ship as an unqual. You talk
Mm-hmm.
about being a plebe during plebe summer. That was all easy for me compared to letting my daughter go, seeing her walk away, entering Alumni Hall.
Yep.
And I was just like, man, how am I gonna do this? And then I saw her after she gave the oath, and then she was smiling and she was like, uh, I'm gonna be okay, Dad. Don't worry. Then I
Yeah,
breathed
but
and I was like,
yeah.
okay, she's gonna be okay. Got the first phone call,
Mm-hmm.
cried my butt off, and she said she's gonna be okay. I
Yeah.
was fine. Went there for parents' weekend. Her hair grew a little bit longer. She's smiling, again. I was like, okay, she's gonna be okay. And then it got a little bit easier as a
Mm-hmm.
parent. And with the culminating event being graduation,
Mm-hmm.
it just the 4 years were tense as a parent. Um, but the joy of seeing her graduate, throwing her cover in the air was much